Hello, guys. So, I don't know if you're like me, but I have had times where I just felt like I didn't know what to do about a situation. And I even started getting very hopeless. I think a lot of us kind of do this with money. Like, oh no, like, how am I going to make money? Like, man, like, I got to get so scared and I got to work harder and I got to force it and fight my way through this and learn more and more. I just got to be more productive. And I'm here to tell you that we don't need to live this way. So it's kind of like cutting a steak. I haven't been eating meat in a while, but if you cut a steak, there's like a grain that you can follow. And so many of us just try to like cut this not the way it's meant to be. And it's just hard and forced. And we just want to follow the natural grain. This doesn't mean that it's all easy and comfortable. It just means that we keep following the natural grain no matter what comes up. So, for example, maybe somebody feels envy. They have envy about their friend because their friend is like really successful. And there's something they're resisting and they want to feed this envy. They want to go towards it. And there's something inside of them that is resisting, that's not at peace. And so I'll get into how we can journal through this, but this envy, basically this person's trying to like find ways to be superior or find ways in which they can feel like they are better than their friend because they have this envy, you know? And it's like, it's just kind of like unfortunate, you know? That's how envy works, is we literally get this sense of gratification by knowing that somebody else is failing. And, you know, that's not ideal. So how lovely it would be to be able to like transcend these emotions and turn them into very virtuous ones. And that's why in this video, I'm going to talk about journaling, because journaling is this creative process that brings us from the external material world into the internal world. So with this envy example, outwardly, the most outward manifestation of this is that physically we're acting certain ways. We feel maybe there's like a tightness in the stomach or like a heavy heart or like our jaw is clenched or something. There's some outward physical manifestation. And it's because of this envy. And as we try to define this and work with the creative, mystical process, we start to dig a little bit deeper. We go within ourselves into our internal world and reach revelations, epiphanies, and insights about our own selves that really resolve and help us to gain comprehension on aspects of ourselves that we didn't realize were actually controlling us. And if everything external starts completely internal, then that makes it really important to understand our internal as much as we possibly can so that we can craft externally what is actually, you know, to the benefit of ourselves and everybody and virtuous. So this is journaling. And with this exercise, we're going to get into some practices. And I do want to mention that we're a machine, right? We're not just like a lot of people like, oh, I just got to journal and it's just this intellectual thing. I got to make sure I'm writing and treating it like a task. We have three brains. We don't just think, or we don't just feel. We don't just act. You know, we have our mind, where maybe we're really interested in like consuming information. Like we really want to read. If that gets out of balance, then we start feeling like this indigestion of like, oh, I learned too much and I don't really know like how to describe what I learned because it's turned into this huge jumble of information. But other times we're feeling much more emotional. You know, it's really tempting to think like, oh, there's a system I got to follow. There's a certain structure I got to follow. And really the whole message here is to listen to yourself, because only you really know what is best for your body and your mind and your soul at any given moment. And you really have to be the one who listens. assuming you have a notebook and now you're sitting, all right, you're just about to put pen to paper. So journaling is really a sexual process. This is because we're creating. Nothing gets created without sex. That's the most powerful energy because it literally creates. And this is the same. So we're working with the third logos here. This is the universal infinite power that can create and it can destroy. And that's beautiful because we can use the creative process to feed our inner spirit. And we can also use the creative process to destroy the things that we don't want. I say this because one of the things I like to do that might be helpful before you actually just start writing is you can just breathe. I like to sometimes just breathe and really imagine the energy going from within, from like your sexual center that's like really involved with the physical world, and breathe in and really imagine this energy going inwards and upwards. So instead of being like really material and physical, it's going into your head, into your mind. You know, that in and of itself will help open your third eye a bit more because you're bringing the energy up. And so let's get into some exercises here. And people say like, oh, like, I don't know, I don't want people to like see my journal. And I'm not going to like cover that. Like you should know this is your journal. Like no one else is going to see this. So it sounds mean, but it's like, bro, like no one is listening. It's your journal. Just like hide it if you want to make sure that no one sees it. And it should be hard. Like there's a quote by Albert Einstein. He says, "It is in the middle of difficulty when opportunity can arise," or something like that. So it's really easy to like really overthink this process, but that's when we push through that, that is how we get to extract spontaneous insight about ourselves. So we're just going to start with some fundamentals here. This will cover all of your centers in your body. You can alter these depending on whether you want to cover your thoughts more or whether you want to cover your feelings more or your sensations more. So the first thing is just start writing, just like write anything and see what happens. And try to do it for 2 or 3 pages. Just start writing. This might be really noisy at first, but if you power through this and let your consciousness just run around, you might catch a wave. And when you catch a wave, you don't know where it could lead you. A lot of us are scared to catch a wave because then it means, oh, like that could actually be fun. Like I could actually start writing. Maybe it's tough at first, but then I could catch this wave of creativity and really enjoy it. And that can be kind of scary when we're used to identifying with as somebody who just can't be creative. But I'm just here to tell you, like if you start powering through some noise and feeling some light, then don't run away from it and really go into it. You don't know where that could go. You might end up writing a story or planning your vacation or finding some really introspective aspect about yourself or something you want to manifest. You can go really deep within yourself if you catch a wave. And this is not to say that you need to get something out of it. It's just by doing this and by powering through this noise inside of yourself, you are automatically strengthening the connection that you have to your inner guidance, to your intuition, to your heart, and you're feeling much more connected to yourself. And when that happens, everything is just much more freeing, because the mind in the beginning, it really likes to interfere. It loves to try to calculate and analyze the right way to do it. And, if it's really getting in the way, then you can actually just write out what those thoughts are. Like, oh, I really doubt this because X, Y, Z. And you can just, those voices that we have throughout the day, like those are great material to start if you don't know where to start, because our minds are, running around. Like I can already pick out what I was thinking before I started recording this video and like use a bunch of doubtful thoughts as a basis to just start writing. And that will really help to understand yourself better, catch a thread. So yeah, you don't even have to watch the rest of the video, because if you just do this, you will cut through more and more noise as you keep doing this. And days, weeks, months later, your heart will probably give you the guidance as to what systems or approaches work best for you. And then you can just follow that. And that's the beauty of starting to get closer with your inner knowing. And the only thing I'll say here is that just make sure you're processing all of this and writing with this foundation of knowing that you're aiming for virtue and clarity, because you might be writing and notice like, oh, I actually have some hidden anger inside of me or something, and you start writing about this anger and it feels really good to express it. The only thing is you could then end up following that to plot some sort of murder against your friend. So just use your common sense. If you are meditating and you know that you want to turn your vices into virtue, I think you'll naturally be guided to not do that, but just that can actually happen. Like, just make sure you're not feeding these egos and you're using the energy productively. All right. So with this in mind, there are also some other essential, like foundational approaches that I take to journaling that I will get into here. I learned this one in a book I read a while back by Jacob Nordby, and it really, just by doing this, I felt like a very different person. So guys, this is the heart's trifecta. The first thing in this exercise is you just talk about your feelings. What do you feel? And write this out until you feel a sense of closure. There's no wrong answers to this. You can talk about your emotions or your physical sensations. If you're just stuck, you can say like you feel your hand on the page or your feet on the floor. Whatever you need to do to ground yourself and really parse through what are you currently feeling. And you will feel very present if you give your attention to what you're really feeling. So what do you feel? The next thing is, what do you need? Do you need to get groceries or go somewhere or call someone? Most of the suffering in our life happens in our imagination. So when you just write out what you need and you've taken some time to just, like, oh, I need this, then you'll see just from an detached point of view that, oh, I've been making this such a big issue and it's actually really quite simple. Now that you've covered what you feel, what you need, you might feel a bit more grounded, some clarity. And this is where you can then ask yourself finally, what would you love? You should feel some excitement or freedom. It could be like, oh, I want to go flying. I would love to go to Belize or something. And if you're struggling, you can also think of it like, how would you love to feel? Would you love to feel like relaxed, peaceful, intuitive, like whatever it is. And you'll probably see that it will feel very relieving and liberating. And the beauty of all of this is it's all more tactical. It's kind of like meditation. And in the act of just writing all of this out, you will probably just actually transcend into these emotions, into these states of being, like even visualizing yourself in these situations that you would totally love. That's the trifecta. And this is an exercise I've done for a while, and it's helped me significantly. Now, the third fundamental exercise I'm going to recommend here, this is the power of destruction. This is destruction. It's sheer powerful fire is what it is, actually. I mean, you guys know, like throughout the day, we probably get triggered by tons of things. Like, oh, this thing made me irritable. This thing brought me into a state of really desiring this or that. We're going throughout our day, so we might not be able to really process that. And, remember, if we did really understand ourselves and the roots of these emotions, we would be able to transcend them. To understand the causes of suffering requires self-knowledge. It is the only cure. If we aren't able to process that in the moment, in the midst of that day, then we just kind of take a snapshot of it. And then when we go to the journal at some point during the day, we can go through this. This is where we can comprehend ourselves much better. and like know what was really going through me when this happened. I recommend just slowly playing through the sequence and going from beginning to end, going bit by bit. So instead of trying to tackle this whole thing of like what you were feeling and what happened, where it's all over the place, you can kind of break it down into pieces. And through each tinier event, you can talk about objectively what happened. And then you can state that one thing and then cover your subjective feelings about it. And then just go do that for each little component of the sequence. And then you can just finish that up with even just a little bit of prayer and just like say, you know, I would love for this to be destroyed. I would love to transcend this. I don't want these things in my life. That's a really therapeutic way to end all of the pouring out of your heart that you just did as you went through that little snapshot. I guarantee like these 3 exercises, like the first one helps to just allow your consciousness to roam and connect with what is really going on inside of you. And then the next one helps you to become into a state of being that you really want to be in. And the third one, a huge help in destroying the things that are blocking you from really reaching your potential. And that's why these are the fundamentals. So I've covered the fundamentals. There are many, many, many other exercises that we can do, but I'm really keeping this down to the basics. And for those of you who are a little bit potentially more intellectual or are learning about a lot of things, I will also get into some more intellectual exercises because we live in an age with so much constant information coming at us. So I'm including the intellectual exercises here because people are trying to get our eyes to look in their direction. Like attention is just being sought for everywhere. So this can help. Like maybe you're reading something and it seems like a lot of information, or maybe you're just feeling overwhelmed with all of the things you might have seen on social media or as you were driving on the billboards, etc. So just get it into paper what you think you know. This is why Confucius says, like, if you want to learn something, teach it. This is how we can understand it better. But we're like trying to teach it to ourselves. That's the first thing. So just analyze something you're learning about. The second one is this is powerful. You can decode symbols from your dreams. I actually keep a separate journal for dreams. We could do a whole other video about this. Like, oh, I was talking to a cat and the cat said this. Why did the cat say that? Many of us need to understand these unconscious dreams if we want to have, because the beauty of this is as we better understand our dreams can become more vivid and we can be more aware in the astral. It's a whole other topic, but basically to go higher in awareness, whether it's in waking life or in our sleeping life, we need to comprehend the parts of ourselves that are unconscious. And so we can just decode symbols from our dreams and really question, like, what did this thing mean? I had this person saying this or whatever it was. Why were we in this location? Why was I wearing this? Lastly, if you're really feeling just like super like this quench for knowledge and planning and analytical thinking is just so much for me, well, then you can just really get into some rational territory. You can plan things out. You just try to balance yourself out, basically, is the third exercise. Just plan things out. Whatever you can do to really do something that's a calculating exercise. Maybe you need to plan an upcoming trip, some dinner ideas, tomorrow's schedule. This will help if you feel like you really need to like calculate things. Maybe that's just me, but sometimes I feel like I just gotta like set my schedule or something, or like get things in order, get things organized. It's kind of like organizing your room, but with like your plans. All right. That's the main. If you're still watching this, sweet. I'll finish this up with some extra pointers, because once you're in a groove, intuitively, you might start feeling like there are some other methods for you to journal. And it might help to know that Those are very valid methods to take. So get creative. There's so many prompts. I'll include some in the description below. And just keep in mind, like, you don't have to use basic writing. You can play a song and you can like describe what your reactions are to this music in words, in animals, in colors. You can try to define yourself in terms of different places, different materials. And you can really just, my point here is to just really try to expand your mind. I did this once. I just like kind of did something random where I listened to music and I was writing about it in some sort of way where I ended up recalling some newfound appreciation for my sister. And I was like, all right, just a random thing from my past, but that's quite beautiful. So this will really help your energy go inwards and upwards. It will help your imagination, and this will probably help you like have more vivid dreams, have more intuitive thinking. Like me, I'm talking to you right now. I'm bringing something from my inner world into the outer world. And that in and of itself is the creative process. And it's very mystical. At least it can be. But if I was forcing this, and if I was trying to think my way through the thoughts that I'm having right now, then I'd be kind of working, forcing. And if I was forcing and trying to act and work my way to do this, then that wouldn't be the Tao. You know, you see all these videos about follow your heart, follow the Tao, follow the being, whatever it is. And the key principle of that is Wu Wei, which translates to non-doing. So this doesn't mean you're not acting. It just means it's effortless because it's naturally flowing out of you. There's no resistance. You're just naturally cutting the grain of the steak. So remember that that's what we want to do. And if there is thinking, that's fine. Just don't resist it and write it down if that's what will help you. This is how magical things can happen because the creative process is mystical. It's magical. It's the third logos. And I hope that this video is helpful. Peace out.